Welcome to SciTech Culture with Steve Kern and Ben Warner, where we examine science, technology and culture in the 21st century. Visit our website at scitechculture.com.
Hello and welcome to SciTech Culture. My name is Ben Warner. I'm joined once again by my good friend and colleague Steve Kern. Good to see you again in the flesh for our final episode of the year.
That's right. Good to be here, Ben. And it's just amazing. Maybe you should take a photo of this afterwards because we're sitting in a little virtual studio right now. It's very impressive.
And everyone will be pleased to know that it's very easy to do these days. I mean, essentially we had four 4K cameras to draw from. We're only using 3. And hopefully if the other 2 cameras are doing their job, I might be able to do a bit of editing, just to get the whole thing working and stuff.
That's it. And hey, guess what? Each one of these 4K cameras will fit in a pocket.
Exactly, that's right. And that's where we are at this stage. So we'll get into that in a minute because I rather than do a wrap-up of the year and that sort of thing, we'll do that a little bit, but I did want to concentrate on this idea of the future being here already, as opposed to something we're still striving towards. But we're just having a look at some of our show notes, and the only thing that we did cover some science and some technology. Obviously, the key thing this year is we had a lot of episodes about Trump, and I think that not that we're an overtly political outfit here, but Trump is kind of extraordinary in the type of news and stories that he's generating. And the only thing I wanted to mention here in terms of a prediction for next year is maybe we shouldn't try and predict what's going to happen because everyone is... It felt like towards the end of the year with the amount of chaos, and it almost call it the Trump presidency cliffhanger for season 2 kind of thing. He generated that much chaos in the last episode that you would think that there would be an outcome that would be normal, like the special prosecutor delivers his report, everyone wakes up and goes, yeah, that's it, something's got to be done. I think it's possible that for instance, a wheel or 2 could come off the bus next year, but I don't think it's going to happen in any way that we're going to be able to predict.
No.
About in terms of how it's going to come out. And that's the real danger. It could be something that could be really catastrophic. It could be something highly amusing.
Yeah.
Or it could not go anywhere and it just sort of keeps stumbling along.
And the interesting thing with that as well, I think, is probably, is it by late next year, we'll start to see who the likely nominations will be as well. People start positioning themselves.
Could even happen earlier in the year too.
Well, there you go. People start staking their claim. Will Hillary make a comeback? Good question.
Yeah, I think she wants to. That's the unfortunate thing. Alrighty. So we'll move on. So the only thing we're going to focus on today to wrap out the year is this idea that I've been thinking about recently, which is we grew up obviously with a lot of, particularly in fiction, so a lot of Hollywood movies, TV shows, this idea of what the future would be like, dystopian or otherwise, types of technology. Growing up, like the Star Trek Positive Future had a lot of technology in it that we can actually see today, that sort of thing. But what about this idea that we've gone from looking forward to what will be coming in the future to the fact that it's already here and that we've already starting to see it. Now, we just, jokingly talked about our multicam setup here. We're carrying around devices in our pockets that are truly extraordinary, regardless of make, model or type, that are so highly functional and they connect you so much to the rest of the world that to me is the beginning. Like, we are here. What was talked about as being in the future is now here, and that can extrapolate into a whole bunch of other things that I think are going to be coming sooner rather than later.
Well, that's true, and I think that one of the big things that always was, probably the hallmark of science fiction, effectively can be boiled down to communication, and that's communication between devices as much as between humans. So whether we're talking about social media in the modern age or device communicating, we've now got sensors in just about every device. We've got cloud networks and internet and all manner of devices communicating, because computing power has just escalated phenomenally in the last 5 or 6 years, and the communications between devices now is possible. Plus, you can run artificial intelligence and machine learning over the information coming through the sensors and this allows autonomous decision making. So
Yeah.
straight away, that sets a science fiction future.
And that whole Big Brother concept that was made famous by things like 1984, that sort of thing. It's not, maybe the particulars of how it actually is being enacted are not the same as what the book had or what the movie had or anything like that, but there are some things in there that are cause for concern, you would think.
Well, there's no question that we are being controlled. We're being watched all the time. Now, the irony, I think, compared to 1984 is you're not being watched by Big Brother, you're being watched by everyone else. And that's, of course, leading to situations where what certain people think is the right way to behave is often causing a polarised opinion by people who think exactly the opposite.
Yeah.
So we can't find any middle ground anymore. In fact, the world's split usually into two camps. And but that is affecting our behaviours, because if you don't fall into either camp, well, then you probably don't have any support.
There's also the rise of the tech corporation that's looking at you. And again, the difference between that and 1984 is that really all the tech corporation's really doing is trying to make money off of you, as opposed to maybe there's a component of control or whatever, but it's really about making money off of you in the most insidious way possible, and usually through servicing you through targeted ads and that sort of thing.
And I think what's been really interesting with that is that rampant capitalism through the internet, and the fact that it's okay if we're just trying to sell you more and move more items has been exploited by rogue nations to pervert the political campaign. So I would say that we've seen what's happened over the last 12 months, but the big tech companies now have to be very mindful that if anything goes wrong in 2 years at the next US presidential election, that could be the end of freedom on the internet, whatever that means.
Whatever that means, exactly. All right, so we don't have flying cars yet, like Back to the Future predicted.
And we don't have robots?
No, we don't. I did encounter a robot in China, but they're not quite the iRobot type
No, we don't have the iRobots.
But are we really that far away from that actually happening? What about even just other science and medical and tech type things? Like, it seems like we're progressing faster than maybe we had been in the past.
Well, I think, we're undergoing a generational revolution now. So every 3-4 generations, there are big shifts, and this is the next big shift. The 60s was the last one. You would say that the 2020 to 2040 cycle will be another huge shift, and technology is driving this as it has in the past. And I think we'll see a lot of big changes to health. There'll be medicine's getting better and better all the time. I don't think we realise it because we haven't cured death. But we will cure a lot more of the diseases of ageing. People are living older. We've covered this before, and they're living healthier and happier lives. So medically, yes. I think technology-wise, look, we're on the cusp of driverless cars. It doesn't matter what anyone says. I don't think we'll probably ever go quite to driverless, but we're getting very close to automated vehicles, and you'll probably see them in a lot of settings.
Yeah. And just finally, all of this wrapped together, I've sensed, maybe this is, me getting older or something, the idea of that real experience of generational shift. So what we grew up with, how the culture interacted with each other, all that sort of thing. I personally have seen a fundamental shift away from that in the last 10 years.
Well, this is no longer, back in the olden days when I was a lad, this is all we had, compared to you. This is like, when grandma didn't have a telephone and everyone had a telephone in the 1980s, but we're seeing it now. I mean, we're lucky enough. I think this is probably the first time technology has been democratized across whole populations and globally, in that anyone can have an iPhone now.
Yeah. The other thing too, though, that I appreciate being part of this particular generation that we grew up in is that I think we were at least equipped with the ability to shift from one to the other. So although we...
there's no going backwards now.
although we have that appreciation for how things were, and we try to sort of not necessarily hold on to it, but still have that sort of, I guess, sense of social interaction that we used to, because we grew up also with the technology and also being able to grow with it. That it's kind of like, to me, well, at least as far as I'm concerned anyway, I feel like I know the balance between using it and not using it, and knowing how to interact even as a person with other people. And I am concerned about current generations coming through. This is even beyond millennials, if there's one after that, where I just look around and see some strange things going on just in terms of interactions, whether it's just something as simple as someone's more comfortable expressing themselves via messaging rather than talking to a person, that sort of stuff, or it could go even worse than that.
This cuts across whole tranches of our lives. So, this is easy to misinterpret, but you and I have some notion of physical labour as a way of just existing, whether it's mowing the lawn, whether it's washing the car, etc., etc. Automation is changing this, even whether it's watering the garden, even now with robots inside the house, housework. So it's not to say that we were better off because we worked harder than perhaps some people might have to work in the next 5 to 10 years. But, we take it for granted, but there's actually a skill to vacuuming, your house. There's actually a skill to watering your garden by eye, by hand, and a skill to washing your car and mowing your lawn and countless other tasks that people used to perform manually. And you see it now. People don't know how to wash cars. They don't know how to mow the lawn. They don't know how to do the garden. They don't even want gardens, etc., etc. That is a huge shift. And you put that along with your social, communication of face-to-face as opposed to screen-to-screen, and you're looking at a really, really different world.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're seeing that in education as well. I mean, kids today have to have an iPad to get educated.
And how did we manage to do it?
How did we manage to do it? That's right.
All right, Steve, we might wrap it up there and wrap it up for the year. I think this is a good topic to end up on, because next year we'll be able to sort of focus on it in a bit more detail in specific areas.
We'll see some big changes, I think, next year very quickly.
But it's good to have done about 7 or 8 years of this now, and starting in a very different place to where we are now. We didn't have 4 4K cameras to play with before, so that's a nice little.
Well, I remember a conversation, not with you, but with an expert in a shop who told me it'd never happen.
And here we are.
Yeah, that's right.
All righty. So, all right, we'll wrap it up there. So don't forget to check out our website, scitechculture.com. Hope you enjoy everything we've got there. We've got our RSS feeds, Vimeo, YouTube. You can check out everything we've got, and hope you enjoy that and the website, and we greatly appreciate everyone that visits. All right, so, best of luck for next year. Hope you're having a good break if you are having one, and I guess we'll get into it again next year, Steve.
We will. Happy New Year.
All right, take care. Bye for now.